And so our speaker, Alisha R., will be giving her talk about beginning again. Sorry, I'm realizing. A codependence journey back. Thank you, Alisha R.
Recording in progress.
Hi, everybody. Let me bring up my presentation here. So yes, the name of my presentation is Finding Alisha, Fall from Grace, The Road Home, A Blessed Journey. This is probably the hardest presentation I've ever given because I'm totally outing myself. So my name's Alisha R., and I have a little problem called codependency. Oops, I want to go back, sorry. Okay, there we go. So my qualifications, 3 12-step programs since 1986. My first CoDA meeting was 1992, and I stayed in program from 92 to 93, but then I met somebody and got married, so why would I need CoDA anymore? That's the way I looked at it. I had my girl, I was all set. And 19 years later, I got divorced, and back to CoDA I came. So in 2012 to 2017, I did CoDA in Austin, Texas. And in 2017, I began my gender transition because I'm a transgender woman, and I left CoDA again. May 2021, I returned to CoDA on my hands and knees. I am not recovered. So if you're looking for the conference speaker who is recovered, you got the wrong one. I am in process. I am always recovering. As soon as I think I'm recovered, I fall on my ass and I'm back to square one again. So I am humbly recovering. So I've always been into tornadoes since I was a kid. This is a picture of the El Reno tornado of 2013, which is the biggest tornado to ever touch down in the United States. It's 2.6 miles wide. And so my metaphorical tornado was my codependency. It's my trauma. It's my pain. It's running from the truth about who I am. I have spent my whole life running from a tornado. This is a picture of the Joplin tornado, May 22nd, 2011. And I went to Joplin after this tornado, and I stood in the middle of the rubble. And tears ran down my face because I knew somewhere deep in my heart that this was going to be me, that my recovery, that whatever it was that was the truth about me would lead me to total destruction before something new would be born. This is a picture of the Moore tornado, which was an epic, powerful tornado, and which is my codependency. And so I love the motif of destruction and resurrection. The beautiful thing about tornadoes and my codependency is that, yes, it takes everything in my life. It ran through my life, like a real tornado. But in the end, it led to a beautiful resurrection. And that's what recovery is. It's my spirituality. Okay, so let's start with the wound. I was born a girl in a boy's body. I presented at a conference probably about, 5 years ago, and somebody asked me, when did you decide to become a girl? And I said to them, when did you decide to become a girl? And they said, well, I didn't. And that's exactly right. It wasn't a decision I ever made. This is not something that you want to decide if you happen to be a boy, because it is not an easy life. In any event, my wound is the physical abuse, the emotional abuse, and sexual abuse of my childhood. My main abuser was my mother, but there was a lot of abuse in other places, such as school. So when we look at tornadoes, we can predict whether a really bad tornado will touch down based on factors like wind shear or two colliding air masses, rotation. And my codependency, the building storm of my codependency, one predictor was the words, and they were my mother's words. You are less than nothing. You are not even human. You are not worth the trouble. No one will ever love you. I don't want you anymore. And then the threats to kill me and my dog, and that was my mother. The building storm, the actions that built my codependency. Well, one of the most damaging things that ever was done to me was her spitting on me. You would think the beatings would be worse, but parents beat their kids. But parents don't tend to spit on their kids. And it was one of the most demeaning things that I've ever lived through. There was an epic beating when I was 11 years old that went between my legs and caused damage to me. I kept that a secret for 10 years until I had surgery to correct that damage. And during that 10 years, I was so ashamed of myself and who I was. And I really believed it was all my fault. All my abuse was my fault because that's what I was told. My father abandoned the family. He was a womanizer. And one day my parents got divorced and he stopped coming back. And I was blamed for that as well. So very traumatic. And it's an important part of my story that you'll see later. And then there was sexual abuse that I'm not discussing here. So this building storm my beliefs. The beliefs that emerged from all this abuse from a very young age was I am not worthy of love. I am a mistake. No one will ever love me. And the world is a dangerous place. And to keep a partner, I have to lie. So I learned at a very young age that if I was going to put anyone in my life, I have to become what they want. I knew nothing about who I was. I want to give a shout out to Ancestral Shame. There's an organization I belong to called the Global Sisterhood, and we take a look at things like this. And Ancestral Shame is about imagining how far back does this codependency go? Like, who was the first relative to really have that shame? What was the original wound in the family lineage? And I imagine this and think about it and meditate on it because it has to go way, way back. I would like to find that woman and put my arms around her and love her because healing this ancestral shame really is what will heal the family and the codependency as we go forward. So at a very young age, I learned to run. Staying safe was all my reasons. And the way I stayed safe was appeasement and submission. Put your hands down. Put your hands down. I put my hands down. I let the boys do what they were going to do to me in the boys' locker room. Back then, we didn't have transgender people, so you were in with the boys. I learned to sabotage relationships by leaving. I learned to sabotage relationships by holding on way too tight. And most of all, staying unconscious. I mastered staying unconscious at a very young age, and I think I started with fantasy and food. Those were my earliest. But later on, I found a lot more powerful addictions and powerful ways to keep myself unconscious. And then bad choices. Bad choices are a great way not to look at yourself. So if I'm homeless, I don't really have to look at my codependency. Or if I put someone in my life who's totally emotional and unreasonable, it becomes about their unreasonable stuff, not mine. So drama. And then lying. I didn't know how to tell the truth about who I was. That really wasn't an option. So I learned to lie about who I was. I didn't run around saying I'm a transgender woman or a girl. I ran around saying I'm a boy. And people would tell me, oh, come on, you're a girl. And I'd say, no, I'm more of a man than you'll ever be. So I learned to lie. And then the belief, very deeply entrenched, the right woman would fix me. So if the woman wasn't fixing me, she must be the wrong woman. And I've been through this over and over again, waiting for somebody to fix me. So anyway, this is Alan's single profile. Alan was my name. This could have been my single profile if I told the truth on Match.com. It would have said sensitive, intelligent man, ready to commit to running, trying to stay safe at your expense. And guess what? I'm really a girl. give me a call. I'm a real cat. Yikes. If anybody's interested, I could put my phone number in the chat. Alan's relationship resume. So Alan was married 4 times, 4 girlfriends since last marriage. And actually, fantasy and addiction were Alan's main companions. So after my divorce, I think it was around 2012, it might have been 2013, I came back to CoDA. And a Saturday morning meeting, wonderful meeting in Austin, Texas. And so CoDA was my social club. And it was about me being able to lead meetings and feel good about myself. The patterns of codependency, I don't remember paying attention to them. The steps, well, they were good for other programs, but I really didn't work very hard at the steps in CoDA. I went out to Greek restaurants with the wonderful women in my group, and I got phone numbers, phone calls, but I can't say I worked the program terribly hard at that time. But I felt like I was doing well because I always kept another addiction going. I always had some way to go unconscious. Then I got interested in transcendence, letting go, a different way of looking at the world, very spiritual kind of thing. It was Eastern thought. I started reading. I started doing programs that helped to build a different kind of consciousness. And I realized I had to let go of all my addictions. And so I set that intention, and I turned it over to God, and one by one, my addictions went. They actually left. And I started to become conscious. So I became a student of a new way of life, and I started getting really honest about me, which led to my gender transition because I could no longer lie. It was no longer an option. I was living the life of a woman at night. I'd be all dressed up and decked out at home and feel all feminine and like myself. And then I'd go to work the next day as a man, and it was killing me. Authenticity, honesty, and integrity became really important to me. I always thought that Alisha was the sick one, and so she was the deep, dark secret. But I came to see that Alan was the sick one. Alan was the one who needed to be unconscious to survive. Alan was the one who isolated. Alisha has fun. Alisha loves to be with people. Alisha loves to socialize. And Alisha doesn't get into addictions. So I transitioned and I ended my raging puberty. Oh my God, 5 years ago, I started estrogen and blocked testosterone, and then I had my surgery, and I entered a raging adolescence, which no one ever told me was going to happen, but I had my adolescence for the first time because the first adolescence that I should have had never really happened. I was busy wanting to survive and stay safe, and also needing to take care of a house after my father left. But I had my adolescence this time, and I'm out going to spend the bottle parties, socializing with people in their 20s mostly. They were my big sisters who taught me the ropes. Alisha was born a motherless child, very immature. Enter Lisa. So in 2020, I lost my job. I was fired from my job. My transition did not go well where I was working. There were a lot of feelings about me transitioning. And I got fired from my job after 19 years in one job, which was very traumatic. At that time, Lisa was in the process of losing her husband. He was leaving her. And so the two of us became friends. We met in a women's circle. And Lisa was experienced. She's intelligent, beautiful woman, articulate, funny, and knew how to have fun. She knew so much more than me about life, it seemed. And I was new at being a woman with women. So we became really good friends. And during the day, I would do all the stuff I loved to do. I was into a transcendence program I was working. I was meditating. I was going to the park and running. I was dancing in the park and stargazing. And then at night, we'd spend the whole night together, every night. She would take her shower with me. She would eat with me. She would, we would share in the deepest ways all the way to the next morning. And one night, I call it the stolen moment, because she fell asleep in front of her FaceTime camera, and I was stealing a look at her. And I thought, dear God, help me. This is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. It was the first time I ever felt that, ever, in my entire life. Because Alan always stayed numbed out, so always had one foot out. Really didn't feel those things. But Alisha was feeling this for the very first time. And that was the beginning of the end for me, the beginning of the end of that relationship. I also say the beginning of a new beginning. Because that tornado touched down. That tornado called codependency ran through this relationship. I started to get jealous. I got jealous of the people that Alisha paid attention to. I got afraid that I wasn't good enough for her. I had this terrible fear of abandonment. I was sure she was going to leave. I started manipulating, and I've really taken a big look at this. I manipulated through gifting. I always like to do nice things for Lisa, but a lot of it was to make myself valuable to her. And so I gave her a lot of money and gifts. I gave her my tax return so she could come out and stay with me. I did, and I look at that as a manipulating kind of behavior. I developed expectations that were far beyond this relationship. And what it turns out is it was far beyond what Lisa was willing to give. Then I started posturing with my credentials to make myself feel good because I felt so small. Now, I practice psychiatry, so I have a very healthy side of me that is a practitioner. It's my personal life that I'm not so good at. So I posture with my credentials and my professional life, which I know hurt her. And then enmeshment with her family. Her daughter came to live with me for 3 months. Her mom, when her mom got sick, I got involved. And I was totally involved in Lisa's drama with her husband. Basically, I disrespected the natural rhythm of this relationship because as Lisa got better and she started working a program and started putting new people in her life, and eventually reconciled with her husband, I got sicker. And the rhythm of the relationship was just that we needed some space with each other. Maintaining that degree of closeness was not healthy. But I could not accept that. So July 12, 2021, I was sitting in the parking lot at work, and Lisa and I were on the phone, and I was about to go into a meeting that was an important meeting to staff patients. And Lisa told me, "You're not worth my trouble." They were words from my past. "This will happen with anyone you're ever with, Alisha. I don't care how you feel." She was really angry with me. 3 months later, she blocked me every place. Thank God I really wasn't intrusive with text, phone calls, but I sent emails searching for closure, trying to get her back in my life. Lisa went back with her husband and she was done with me. In any event, you can see the nuclear blast. This was a nuclear blast in my life because I never felt anything like this. I didn't understand where all the feelings were coming from. Now, I've been in treatment. I was in CoDA. I was really processing a lot of this. And what I came to see was this was my father leaving, my father blocking me when I was a kid, disappearing, and me not being able to find him anywhere. He was the one who was going to save me from my mother, and he never came back. And that realization as a child that my mother could do whatever the fuck she wanted, and there was nobody that was going to help me, and there was nothing I could do about it. And so I sat in all that pain. I sat in it, and I hit the bottom. Around October last year, I hit my bottom. And the bottom, I always tell my patients this because I work with recovering addicts, you know. I detox people as part of my job. And so my bottom, I always tell people the bottom is a magical place. It's a place that's fertile for growth. It's where miracles happen. It's the gravity. It's a beautiful place to come from because we do the things we ordinarily wouldn't do to feel better, to recover. And so the universe offered me one loss after another. I have to say, knocked me on my ass. I got brought up on charges by the medical board at the expense of my last employer who fired me and was afraid I was going to lose my license and litigated the entire winter with them. I had to spend $6,000 on a lawyer to deal with that. Then I lost relatives. My kids stopped talking to me. My dog died. Anyway, it became clear in this whole bottom where I was coming from, and I was listening very carefully at this point. I shut my mouth. Lisa would not be my answer. This bottom really had nothing to do with Lisa. And so my recovery started. I let the tornado catch me. Yes, that all that pain, my codependency, my trauma, I stopped running from it. And I experienced the emotions. I sat with my psychiatrist who really would trigger all these emotions in me. And then we drop the story and just sit with the feelings and feel what they're like inside me till they go away. And I learned to really feel my emotions deeply, which is my recovery. I found humility, which means I'm not the lowest piece of shit on earth and I'm not the best thing that ever walked the face of this earth. I'm just another codependent. And my emotions are not a choice. I don't get to choose to be euphoric anymore. I don't get to put a pill in my body or abuse alcohol or an activity like sex to feel better. I take life on life's terms, and I feel my emotions as they come up, and some days suck. And that's just the way it is. God bless those days. Uncompromised. Half measures availed us nothing. Well, for me, half measures availed me something, just not everything, because I've done a lot of half measures. But uncompromised for me means I keep coming back, working recovery, in all different programs, not just the 12-step programs. I have many different venues where we look at shadow self. I do a lot of women's groups. I run some women's groups. I choose my guides carefully. People who are humble, who are really walking the walk, are people who I put in my life now. I'm really not interested in big egos because it triggers my big ego and we react to each other. I started coming to terms with my insanity, and my insanity was wanting Lisa to have everything she could possibly dream of because I loved her so much. I really did. But also wanting her to be in my life, even if it meant losing everything that she wanted, including her husband. And that was the insanity. My self-esteem plummeted because I wrestled with this. Being a good friend and really loving somebody means sometimes you have to let go. Accepting the rhythm of relationships. Ironically, her daughter, who's still my friend, a good friend, taught me all about rhythm in relationships because her daughter and I are very close, and when she pulls away, I know she's not going away forever or anymore. I let go now. I work on letting go. We talk about it. If she's not feeling well and she needs to isolate more, I know what she's doing, and it's just the rhythm of our relationship. Sometimes we're close, sometimes we're not. I have many new people in my life, and I honor the rhythms. So my patterns of codependency, this was such an important part of my recovery. Coming back into program, reading these patterns, I cringed. I couldn't believe that that they were talking about me. But my dysfunction was clear when I came back to program this time, and I had no choice but to look at it. And so I host a Monday night meeting called Beautiful Mess Meeting on the Pacific Coast at 5 o'clock. You're welcome to join if you're a woman. It's a women's meeting. And we focus on the patterns of recovery: denial, compliance, avoidance, control, low self-esteem. And what I love about the patterns that's on the CoDA.org website is on one side, on the left, it talks about what codependent behaviors are like, but they give me what the recovery behaviors are like. So I get to practice and change, modify my behavior. Work recovery. And the steps, I did a step study all last year with some wonderful women, and I'm always on step one. I am powerless over others. Trying to control them, manipulate them, makes my life unmanageable because I lose myself and I lose my friends. As soon as I forget that I'm powerless, my higher power knocks me on my ass, and I'm back to square one again. My life's unmanageable. So step one is forever present in my life. I never graduate from it. Step 2 and 3 are where the power of the program is. Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, and then I turned my will over to the care of God as I understand God. I call her the Divine Mother for me. This is the engine of the program. This is where I get the courage to move forward with the most difficult things, which is looking at myself, sitting in an EF5 tornado that's swirling around me and being present for it. That all comes from higher power. Step 4, looking in the mirror. I took a fearless moral inventory of myself. I have never taken a fearless moral inventory of myself. I take a fearful inventory of myself because I'm scared to death when I start this process. And I've done it a number of times. Looking in the mirror, being really thorough about what needs to change, but also what's wonderful about me. Step 5 is getting honest, admitted to God. Well, God already knows. To myself, well, I already knew because I did step 4. And an other human being, the exact nature of my wrong. So I gave my step away this time to a lovely woman who was really new to the program. And she listened intently for 2.5 hours to all my shortcomings, to the time I threw a shoe across the room because Lisa wasn't paying attention to me, and I stamped out. We were on vacation in a thunderstorm and ran down the beach, just being my unreasonable behavior. I outed myself about everything. And she just sat there and did not judge me and asked questions for clarification, and it was an awesome process. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all my defects of character. Well, since 1986, I've been wondering what it means to be entirely ready. I don't know what that is, but am I ready? Preparing myself for divine intervention. So for me, being ready is learning to shut my mouth and pay attention. It's so easy to blame somebody else for everything that's going on. Well, Lisa hurt me, and this one's narcissistic, and that one's that, and looking everywhere but me. Well, I've learned to shut my mouth. That's what step 6 is. Getting ready means I shut up and I pay attention. I pay attention to me and what's going on in me and who I am. Step 7, I humbly ask God to remove my shortcomings. This isn't about waging battle. This is about receiving grace. It's about acceptance. It's humility. It's allowing God to operate inside me and make changes. It's letting go of my ego. Step 8, making a list and checking it twice. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So I checked the list twice and maybe 3 times because I have to ask myself, what are my motives? Why am I wanting to make amends? I made some premature amends to Lisa through email. I wanted to get Lisa back in my life, which was not a good reason. But as I worked the steps, I really aligned with some very good reasons, which is healing. I put myself at the top of the amends list this time because I beat the shit out of myself most of my life. And I owed myself some big amends for selling myself short, for giving myself up to hang on to somebody. Lisa was second. Whether she ever read the amends, I don't know. I sent her an email. I have no idea if she ever read them. There were many people I've lied to. Every time I went out on a date as a man and the person expected a man and got a woman was a lie. Some people knew. They figured it out very quickly, and others didn't and were very disappointed. And I owed amends to my kids because, in essence, I murdered their father. You know, they lost their dad. Lots of amends. Step 9, making amends to such people except when to do so would injure them or others, but also except when to injure me. I don't make amends directly to people who are going to harm me. I just don't do it. I do living amends. I make changes in my life consciously to correct a wrongdoing. So yes, my motives are very important. I don't want to hurt somebody. I want healing. That's the point. I need to be open to feedback when I make amends, and it may not be feedback I want because somebody may tell me to get the hell out of their lives. The point of the amends is not for me to get squishy, warm hugs. It's to bring healing to people I've harmed. Then the way of life, the beautiful part of this program, step 10, 11, and 12, continue to take personal inventory, and when I was wrong, promptly admitted it, sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I understood God, praying only for knowledge of God's will for me and the power to carry that out. And then step 12 is doing service, bringing my story to other people. And I think the greatest service I do is sharing my mistakes and my accountability and my recovery. Because when I share about my jealousy in a group, whether it's a CoDA group or whether it's one of my women's groups, and another woman stands up and talks about her jealousy, healing that happens for me and for them. And it's so nice to have that common human experience of not being perfect. So building, step 11, building the relationship with the divine. So these are the ways I do it: ecstatic dance, meditation, prayer. I do shamanic breath work twice a week. Spiritual study. I took a class in creating rituals for women, and so I do my own rituals that are very spiritual, and women's circles are really important to me. I'm going to be doing another one Saturday night where we talk really deeply about our issues in circle. Tools of recovery in the program. I read the language of letting go in the morning. It sets the tone. Peeling the onion talks about authentic relationships. It really tells me what's healthy. I love this booklet. The first time I read it coming back, I cringed. I wanted to vomit because it revealed all my dysfunction. But now I get it and I embraced it and I say, tell me more, I want to grow. Step study is an integral part of recovery. I'll be starting another step study group. I completed a step study group in the spring. That was awesome. Connection with other people in program is so important. Phone calls, sponsoring, having buddies that are in the program and out of the program. I have people who I connect with on a regular basis. Meetings. I don't stop my meetings anymore. I was doing 5 to 7 meetings a week for a while. Now I'm doing 2 meetings a week because I do a lot of other self-growth stuff. And then service. You know, I run a meeting, host for a meeting, and then I do timekeeping and read if I get a chance. And Service is a really important part of recovery. And then, of course, the patterns and characteristics that I talked about before. Some of the other tools I've discovered, dropping thoughts that don't serve me, focusing on what does serve me. So dropping thoughts that don't serve me means thoughts like getting stuck on what Lisa's doing. Oh, Lisa has new friends now, and she's talking about me behind my back probably, and all these women will hate me. That's an example of thoughts that don't serve me. But focusing on thoughts that do serve me. What do I want in my life? Thinking about me being a worthwhile person who has a lot to offer and who's ever evolving and willing to grow. Other tools, free expression. I took an acting class. I started reading my poetry in public venues. Dancing. I love dance. I like to express myself, and that really is a tool of recovery. Paying attention to fantasy, what's real and what's not. I used to run around saying everybody was my friend, and some of those people turned on me, and they were the people who had charges in my last job. They weren't my friends. Incidentally, I won that case, by the way. Fantasy is what's not real, and reality is what is. And I have reality accountable partners. My psychiatrist is very good. Daily gratitude. I do gratitude first thing in the morning. As soon as I get up in the morning, I start to say what I'm grateful for. Because the first thing I do as soon as I open my eyes is I say, oh shit, another day. Then I start doing gratitude. Thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for my dog Perseus. Thank you for my feminine soul. And thank you for glitter. I love glitter. Thank you for my makeup. I go through a gratitude list that could last all morning if I let it. Forgiveness is another tool. I forgive myself. Every time I see myself fall on my face and I look at some of my behaviors, I forgive myself. I forgive you, Alisha. I forgive you. And I'm working on forgiving my abusers. Forgiveness is a tool of recovery. Letting go of outcomes. So I can ask my higher power for a partner, which I have. Please, higher power, let me have a partner who loves me and let me have a healthy relationship. And then I'll put in the order. I want her to have black hair and a lot of piercings and tattoos, and I want her to like dancing. No, I don't get to control the I get to ask for what I want and let go of it and let God give me what I have coming to me. I work for it and I accept the outcome as it comes, and it may not be at all what I expected. Some of the gifts from the program, I'm learning to accept myself and prize authenticity. Authenticity is really important to me. What's real? Who am I? And expressing that. Accepting other people where they are at. Not everybody can communicate the way I would like. Accepting them where they're at is so important. Being emotionally available. I have learned to be so much more available than I ever was before. It's still a work in progress, but I am present in my relationships at this point. Access to my deep, deep heart. I have learned that my heart goes very deep and is very sensitive. I accept the wound, and I can't heal this wound. This wound is something that maybe God will heal for me one day. I don't know, but I've learned to step around it and not to fall into it. I don't want to be a victim. I don't even want to be a survivor. I just want to get past my trauma. Mindfulness, being in my body, being aware of what's going on now, not having to go numb and unconscious. And divine connection, which is ever evolving. Future directions for me, I really want to learn. I want to set an intention to bring love to all my interactions, ideally. That means even setting boundaries. I don't want to be heavy-handed because I can be at times. I never, ever want to block somebody because I know how injuring that can be. So if I don't have to do it, I will not push the button. I will not fire the missiles. The only time I've ever blocked somebody is when I felt endangered by them. So I want to set boundaries and have my communication come from a space of love. That's a work in progress because sometimes I can turn into a bitch. Life beyond trauma, letting go of the fear. I have fear every day. I deal with fear every day. I still have nightmares. I have flashbacks. I'm in treatment. Really, my future direction is to let go of the trauma, to move beyond it and to let this go and let the universe take care of me and trust that it will. And evolving divine consciousness, to continuously strive for a better connection with my higher power, who I call the Divine Mother, but I acknowledge gender-wise, my divine source is both masculine and feminine. So final thoughts. Progress, not perfection. They're not just words. It's such an important part of program. It's important for me to remember I don't have to be perfect. I just have to move in the right direction. I am perfectly imperfect. I'm meant to be that way. It's perfect that I'm imperfect, and it's perfect that you're imperfect. We're human. That's what makes us beautiful. I am on a journey. I am constantly evolving. I do not stop evolving. I'm always moving forward, and it's a gift. And sometimes it hurts like hell, and sometimes it feels beautiful, and I feel like I got this down pat. I'm something. I'm really something, till I fall on my face again. I am doing the very best I can. Even with Lisa, I was learning how to be a woman with a woman. It was brand new for me. It was the first time I loved somebody so totally. I did the best I could, doing the best I can. I am beautiful. I get that. And when I forget it, I remind myself, but you're beautiful too. And I won't forget that. I hear so many beautiful things in the rooms. I am so privileged to be part of this program and to really share where we share our dysfunction. We share the truth about who we are is such a gift. I am blessed to have this opportunity because it's beautiful. And finally, let's be gentle with ourselves. I want to be gentle with myself. We don't have to be perfect. We could do really stupid things and come back and get a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance. There's always another chance, no matter how many times we fall on our face. So be gentle with yourself, okay? So thank you for letting me present to you today. This was a real honor. My name's Alisha R., and I have a little problem called codependency. Thank you.
Thank you, Alisha. Take the lead.
Thank you so much. That was such a great story. I love I'm a dancer too, so people have heard here, I've already been bringing wireless speakers and a strobe light. I love that, and I love the being who you are, and I really loved your story. Does anybody? Do we have any hands up online, Carol?
Let's give them a chance. Here comes one.
I see one for Beth.
We have one right now. Yep. Are we ready? Beth.
Hi, Alisha. This is Beth D. from the Carolinas. I've been in recovery for about 15 months, and I'm working the steps with a sponsor, getting ready to come up on step 8. And I was wondering if you could speak to the promise that says all of my new and renewed relationships are with equal partners. I'm looking forward to that promise. Thank you so much for your sharing your service.
Thank you so much. I am also looking forward to that promise. I have new relationships that are blooming in my life now, and they are mutually respectful relationships. But I can't say anybody's a partner in those relationships. They're my friends, but they're real friends. They keep coming back because they want to come back. They don't say one thing and do another. They show up in my life. And Lisa's daughter has become such a good friend to me. And, she keeps showing up in my life. So equal partners is me being able to say what I need, and them coming back and negotiating with me on an equal basis. I don't posture with credentials or be bigger than somebody, but I'm also not smaller than somebody. So that's the way I relate to it. I have not had a partnership that's been healthy yet. So I can't even that. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Great. We have an in-person, so we'll probably do in-person and then a virtual. We'll just go back and forth.
Hi, Alisha. Thank you so much for sharing your story. That was absolutely stunning and a really beautiful gift. I'm Abby.
Thank you.
And I'm so curious what your biggest challenges are as a transgender woman.
Well, I'll tell you this. People look at this body and they think, well, this is an aging woman, you know. And actually, I had just ended my maidenhood. I finished my adolescence and became, my friend tells me, you're now a maiden. We should have a ceremony for you. My friends are in their 20s and 30s. I live a life that's not like people my age at all. And that is a huge challenge. Because, you know, I was on a cruise and they tried to sit me at the senior table. And I was like, that's not going to work for me. So I found a table where there were children and some young adults, and I had a great time. So really the age issue has become a huge challenge for me because I'm just who I am is a younger woman right now. How this happened, I don't know. I think part of it was being unconscious for most of my life and not growing up. But you know, that is probably one of the biggest challenges. And then, of course, you know, I live my life in a very small space now because there's a lot of places I can't go anymore as a transgender woman. And if somebody picks me out, sometimes there are consequences. I've had physical aggression, people pulling their kids off the sidewalk when I walk by, stuff like that. But most of the time it's okay. And I live where my people are. And so Austin, Texas is awesome. I live downtown. I really love where I live. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome.
Do you want to take another virtual one?
Right. Donna from Arizona.
Thank you. Hi. Alisha, thank you so much for sharing your story. I want to say you're way ahead of me, but I don't really want to say that. What struck me the most was your identification of the abandonment of your father and the pain of that at the root of the compulsion to keep these relationships with people that don't love us. And that pain, and how often I get triggered by that in my life now as a 67-year-old. And I don't even know that's what it is unless I go into my body, like you were talking about, you did in counseling with your psychiatrist. I don't know if it was your psychiatrist, but unless I go into my body and feel that feeling, I don't know what it is. I just know I feel crazy in my head when it happens, but that's it. And I know that's it. I know there was a traumatic experience in childhood for me when I got separated from my father and I never quite got reunited with him. And there's always that little 7-year-old looking for, is he here? Is he here? Is he here? You know. And so thank you so much for getting to that core because I think it's so meaningful and I hope everyone can hear that and travel inside and find their core of that compulsive reactivity so they can have better control and manage their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. I love the identification. It's great to meet people who understand this experience. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question from Darren.
Oh, God. Where's it? Oh, there it is. Hey, Taryn from the state of Georgia. So I loved how you talked about, like, lessening our victimhood and just really owning our own story. That was pretty powerful. And then how you talked about dealing with age biases, because I see them everywhere I go. Whether it's somebody talking about how old they are, or somebody getting down on young people for being not mature in certain ways. I just wanted to say, come to Georgia. You're welcome anytime. We love LGBTQIA+++. I live in Midtown. It's a great place. And open-minded. And the question I had was, could you repeat that women's group that you, is that online or is that in person?
Sure. I was an administrator for them. The globalsisterhood.org.
Thank you.
Globalsisterhood.org. It's a group of 54,000 women. And I used to manage their Facebook page. But we did away with the Facebook page. But we do all kinds of women's circles is really what the focus of the Global Sisterhood is. So globalsisterhood.org, and you can hear a lot more about that organization by looking it up.
Thank you.
And then the other thing you mentioned was the Beautiful Mess. That's on Monday nights. Is that on Zoom?
Ooh. Yeah, that is the awesome meeting. It's women's meetings it's every day of the week, 5 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock my time, Central. But I do the Monday night meeting, which is patterns and characteristics, and so much recovery there. They're awesome women. It's an awesome meeting. It's just a women's meeting, though. So you have to identify as a woman or be a woman to do that one. But beautiful mess meetings, okay. Absolutely.
Great.
Every night there's another focus: peeling the onion, the language of letting go. There's a step meeting, something different every night.
Okay, sounds great. And then we have another virtual one.
Yes, Yvette S.
Hi, Yvette, codependent. Thank you, Alisha. So appreciated your lead share. And you said so many things, and it's like, let me just kind of narrow down, of course, one question. But there's so many questions I really want to ask. And I really like that you talked about forgiveness. That's been a major part of my recovery. The other thing that I wanted to ask you, and you may have covered in your presentation, it's just that I've been kind of busy listening and doing other chores and everything, was about service. I recently found for me service it's kind of confusing because it's very much tied to my family of origin and what happened in my family of origin. I was rewarded for service. If I did some task or some chore, that's where I got my validation and my approval from. And I knew that early on, if I did something that got this, validation from my parent, I knew that was what if I wanted it, then I would do some work or some chore. I'm having some confusion about service and what it means to me. I don't want to do service because I feel like that's where I get my validation and my worthiness from. But I don't know how to separate the two. The service work from feeling like if I do service, this is what I'm going to get from it. Value, worthiness, approval. And I know it's not that. So can you give me your input on service? And
sure.
Sorry for making it my question so long, but I just
it's a great question. I think for me, service is not about what I'm going to get. I had no idea how this presentation would go, and it was about what can I give is the question. So it's not about receiving validation or attention, although I like attention. When I do service, it's about what am I contributing? How can I make things better for somebody else? And so there's always that balance between receiving and nurturing myself. Then I have to give, and there's an equal giving, and that's where the recovery is. So that's where service is so important, because you're not really asking, what am I going to get out of this? You are saying, how can I further the cause here? How can I help somebody else with their codependency? Because after all, that's how we work. We're not an organization of professionals. We're an organization of peers. we all have the same problem, So that's where the strength is.
Thank you very much.
We have another question from in person.
Hi, me again. I had a second question for you. You mentioned that you are in treatment for fear, to like deal with your fear. Do you mind sharing what kind of treatment you are working on?
Yeah, if it's okay. Programs don't like that, but I could say what I do. For me, it's, one is I started with EMDR. That was one of the things that I did from the beginning. But right now, it's what I said. My psychiatrist sits with me, and she triggers. We talk about very triggering events, and I get very triggered. And then she does not let me escape the emotions. She keeps bringing it back. Where do you feel this in your body? And so I describe the feeling and where it's coming from. And is it radiating? Is it a ball? Is it throbbing? And so I describe it to the max, and we totally focus on the emotion. She doesn't care if I'm sobbing uncontrollably. She just is very nonchalant about it. She just says, just keeps me doing it. And drop the story. The story keeps that fear response going. So it's dropping the story. Other ways I deal with fear is breath work. Doing breath work. And so if I really get into a bad place with my fear, I'll start doing like box breathing, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds hold. I find breathing to be really, really helpful. So, and then my shamanic breath work really is really beautiful. It takes me to a whole other place. It's very intense. So.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, back to online.
Sorry, okay, May is next.
Hi, thank you for your share. I really resonated really strongly with a lot of your story. And I've only been in CoDA for 11 months, and I'm on step 4, but I spent ages struggling with step 2, like finding a loving higher, like relating to a loving higher power. And today I'm doing EMDR. I've got long COVID, and that's taken the emotional brakes off my brain. So I am finding out lots and lots of stuff about myself that I didn't know I was really holding on to. And I really feel like it's a higher power thing. And I really feel like listening to your talk is like a higher power thing. So one of the things I found out today is that I'm really struggling to relax and to fight, to know what I want to do for fun. And I just wondered, because I think I'm like this because of my history and my trauma. And I just wondered, could I ask you, what do you do for fun and what do you do to relax?
Oh, awesome question. I did a CoDA workshop about 7 years ago. The topic of the workshop was, how do you make yourself happy? And this woman talked about bringing all the things you love in your life everywhere, putting it in your car, putting it in your house. I love Disney. I carry my place at work is a Moana backpack. My car's name is Belle, and her name is right on the side. I have my room is done in beauty, and I have a fairy garden in my living room. So all year round, I have this beautiful garden and fairies everywhere. They make me really happy. So I put things in my life that make me happy. That's one thing. But for me, dancing, I love to dance. I discovered it. I used to do a lot of woodworking when I was in a male body, and I loved sculpting, and I've always been very artsy at it. But I discovered dance as a woman. I do expressive dance at a studio. I even dance on a pole. I love it. It's so much fun. And so I make sure I dance every week. I have a venue where I can go every single week and dance, and I get a lot of attention for my dancing, and it just feels good. I leave, I get away from all my problems. So it's my escape, I guess. Maybe it's avoidance, but I can't do it all the time. It doesn't get too ugly. It's just a couple of times a week. So yeah, that's what makes me happy.
Thank you. That was an awesome answer.
All right, we could do another virtual one. Blanca, you're up.
Blanca, sorry, I was muted.
Hi, Alicia. Blanca from Mexico. I live in California. I really liked your presentation, and I identify with you about the manipulation that you did with your partner. I did the same. But for me, what I really, really like is your disclosure about the steps. And I didn't hear the first ones, but I think for me to work on the first step is the hardest thing. So can you tell me, when I hear the sharings, I hear just work on it, practice it, and that's all I hear. But it's hard to explain somebody how to work on it. Can you give me an example of it? Can you tell me how to work on the first step? Thank you.
Yeah. When I sponsor people, so what I do is the first step works itself, pay attention. So we start to look at how we're powerless. So as you're living your life, what's going on in your life right now, and our attempts to control other people. If we're codependent, they come up. And that's step one. Where am I trying to control other people? And so my powerlessness comes back to me just by living my life and paying attention. All the people who won't do what I want them to do. I want my kids in my life. I have a grandson who I don't know. They won't tell my grandson who I am because I'm who I am. And this is not acceptable. So the times I've met my grandson where he knows me as Alisha, but I can't control that. So that's an example of something that can end up in my face and it really hurts a lot, but I'm not going to guilt my kids or shame them or make them think they did something wrong because they need to feel safe. And part of them feeling safe is keep creating distance with me right now. So look at that. I have accountability people who help me look at that. Every time I try to control something, it backfires usually, and I end up not being myself or looking at my life and feeling that it's unmanageable because I lost myself somewhere. I feel shame, So step one works itself, I think. You just stop paying attention. Also, the workbook, the CoDA workbook, has questions in it. And so I do the questions that really focus me on a particular step. And I went through all the steps with the workbook, and I'm going to go through them again. Answering those questions is a great way to move forward with the step. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody in person have more questions? About online?
And online.
Can you give us some tips on setting boundaries?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm no expert here. When I wear my professional hat and I sit with my patients, I'm in a different mind. So as an individual who's codependent, one of my biggest issues is not setting good boundaries. And I've actually done classes on this. How do you say no? We practice saying no in this women's group. It was actually a lesbian group, and they were women. How do you say no to people? How do you say yes? I had to go to classes on all that. So boundary setting, I think, is about authenticity. I think you ask yourself, really, what am I comfortable with here? Because one of the things I do is lie to myself. If somebody comes into my space and I don't really want them there, sometimes I'll try to accommodate something I don't like, And I'm one of those people who also has given sex when I wanted love. So I look now and say, is this really what I want? Am I doing this to keep someone in my life? Am I accommodating something that's not comfortable? If the answer is yes, then setting a boundary, what I'm trying to do is to be kind with boundaries, is to state them very clearly, very directly. I'm not comfortable with this or that, or really my evenings are for me. I don't take a lot of calls in the evenings, so I'm not going to be able to do that. Can we call another time? Things like that. I try to bring negotiation into it as well, so that I think good friends negotiate. So if I can't do something at a certain time, it's like, can we move it to a different time? But if there's something I can't accommodate, I have to be really honest and say, this is not something I'm willing to do. And that's a work in progress, because sometimes I do things I don't want to do. I still see myself appeasing sometimes. And then I'll go home and say, I just appeased. Then I'll call somebody and say, I appeased them. Lisa's daughter, who's only 26 years old, she is so good at boundary setting sometimes. I am so impressed with her, and I watch her, and she does not budge. You can't manipulate that girl into anything. And so I learned so much from her, because she'll just say, oh, this isn't in my bandwidth, she'll say. I'm not going there. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So actually, Lisa's the one who's answering the question, but it's a work in progress for me. Thanks.
Thanks. Anybody else?
So Anna, online.
Hi, Alisha, thank you so much for your presentation. I really gravitated to the title of this presentation, Beginning Again. And although the circumstances are different, I've been in program for, I want to say 25, 26 years. And I have found, interestingly enough, within this time of COVID, where I have been asking myself questions that I've never asked before. And I have started to tap into realizing that I am not free and that I am not who I want to be. And I guess I'm not sure if you covered this already, but I guess my question is around what were the first things that because you talked about freedom and being yourself. At the very beginning, if not throughout the entire talk. And I wondered if you can talk a little bit about the first things that you started doing for yourself, those first, what I call baby steps, with regards to becoming free, or maybe even before that, with regards to admitting to yourself that there's something there that needs to be freed. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I have to tell you the story because it's about 17 years ago. I used to meet with a minister who was in a 12-step program. We did the meeting together and we journaled together. For 3 years we journaled, and then we'd read each other's journals once a week. And one day he said to me, you're doing the wrong thing, he said to me, and I was in a man's body. He said, there's a woman here. And he said, you need to give her a voice. And no one ever knew that I was a woman. That was the first person who just sat there and said it to me, and who was an adult and was responsible. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? I had a beard and a mustache, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this body? Maybe in the next life, I said to him. And he said, no, you need to give her a voice now. Let her talk in your journal. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning of me expressing being free. And it was many years later that I finally had to tell the truth and come out and do what I did with this transition. So I think for me, it was taking a stand about who I was. And that was coming out at work and saying, actually, I'm a transgender woman. And saying I really need to transition and there's going to be some changes happening, and try to prepare people for it. and process their emotions and help them with that the best I could. But that didn't go very well. I got fired. But the thing was, I was free though. And the more I started taking space to say, this is who I am, regardless of how people reacted or what they did, they really got to realize that if they were going to be in my life, they needed to accept who I was. And that was the biggest freedom. And then the other thing is I let go of a lot of people. Everyone disappeared. All my friends from before transitioning are gone. Nobody stayed. They all really would always see me the old way. All my friends now only see me as a woman. But I created the space for an authentic life, and that's freedom for me. So anyway, the thing that screws up my freedom is me, because I'll get into ways of thinking that tie me back down, that make me worry, am I going to ever have a partner again? Am I going to be alone forever? And those are the things that clip my wings, because I never have to be alone. I could just do a meeting anytime I want. Really, there's meetings online all the time. I can go down to the Third Eye Meditation Lounge and dance or meet people there. There's always something. So, yeah, I think it's just giving myself permission to be free, was saying what is the truth about who I am and doing it. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. We have one more online.
Yeah, go for it.
Is that good? Yvette?
Yes, hi. Hi again, Alisha. Thank you again so much for your presentation and all the wonderful feedback. I realized that as a codependent, when I came into the program, that I had idealized many people. And it was relationships where I was always the lesser one. And then the other person would be the superior person in the relationship. And then when I came to the program and started to understand who I was as a person and really getting to know who I am, I realized that I had to go no contact with some people. That has been an eye-opener, because I never thought ever that I would have to go no contact with a family member. And so that's been hard for me to wrap my head around and get my thoughts together. I feel safer going no contact. But I was just wondering, what has your experience been like where you have initiated no contact? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So it's a very sensitive topic for me, because what happened with Lisa just injured me so deeply that she blocked me everywhere. And it hurt me so deeply because I really wasn't being intrusive with her. When she said she needed space, I gave it to her. And so it was a very angry move on her part, and it hurt me so deeply. So when I hear no contact, to this day, I get nauseated. It just hurt me so deeply. But when I've gone no contact, well, one of the things I do is I communicate why. I don't feel safe. A person can negotiate with me if they chose to. So I went no contact with somebody who was harassing me, texting, and she knew it was the end of a relationship, and she knew that it was a hard breakup and I didn't want to be with her. This was as a man. And she kept texting me, and then she would just text a period or an exclamation point because she knew it upset me just to see her name come up. And so I blocked her because I knew that she had potential to really do harm in my life. And that process was she had no reason to be in my life anymore. So it was just a matter of blocking and she's tried to be intrusive in other ways, and I just let it go with family members and whatnot. But other people, there's somebody else I don't talk to anymore who insists on hurting me. and won't own that. And so I said, I don't feel safe with you, is what I said. This is not a safe relationship for me. This after she did something that really hurt me. And it was a very aggressive act, very blatantly aggressive. Anyone would agree. And I just said, this doesn't feel safe to me, that you would do something like this, and just, I don't see this as workable anymore. And she said, oh, okay. That's fine. She and stopped talking to me. It was a family member, and it was somebody, the only relative I have left, really. My relatives are gone. Other than my kids and stuff, but it's my sister. And, it shouldn't have had to happen. You think about that. But her whole reason for being is that I'm the bad one. She needs to see me as the bad one. She needs to blame me for everything that happened. I need to continue to have that role because she's the good one. And that defines her. And she has no interest in coming to terms with any of it. No, I'm not going to be the bad one anymore. I'm really proud of myself now. And it really made her jealous when I started coming out as a woman and being really proud of myself. So, I just said I didn't block her on the phone or anything. I just said, I don't really want to be in touch with you anymore. And that was that. I think she sent me a happy birthday, and I sent her a happy birthday, which is benign enough and safe enough. But, I try to do it with love. So I don't know if that answers it or not, but those are my experiences. I don't have a lot of volatile relationships, even all those marriages and everything. People were happy to see me go. It wasn't like they were hanging on to me so tightly, I mean, I picked a lot of people who had problems with intimacy also. So when the relationships ended, we were all relieved. So I didn't have a lot of drama until Lisa, really. I didn't have tremendous drama. So thanks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anybody in person have one? Okay, so we can go back to virtual.
One more virtually, CF, if there's time.
Hi, thank you. My name's Caroline. Can I be heard?
We hear you well.
Oh, thank you. I am from Florida. This is actually my first CoDA meeting. I'm so grateful to be here. And Alisha, thank you so much for sharing your presentation. I think I might cry, but I don't want to. Oh. But thank you. The outline, you've made it so simple, and I'm so very hopeful. I've been searching and searching for a CoDA meeting, and it's been hard. And it dawned on me when I was listening to you, I was meant to hear your presentation, and I'm so glad this is my first meeting. I wanted to also concur, I'm sorry because I think it helps people, but the EMDR helped me get past my trauma so I could get to a place to healing. So I just wanted to offer that, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And welcome. I'm so glad that you're in our program. It's a great place for recovery. Awesome.
Yeah, welcome, CF. Here's a good round of applause for your first meeting. It's a big step. You're welcome here. So I do think it's probably about time. We do have 4 minutes. So if there's
a question from Yvette, if there's, or we can go to break.
Yeah. So we have about 4 minutes.
She took her hand down. Oh, yep, it's back up.
Go for it.
Oh, it's down.
I apologize. I'm just getting everything mixed up here. No question. No other questions.
It might be reactions you're looking for.
Yeah. Thank you.
We all like our hands up. That's good. All right, we have one more. Is it all right if we share your PowerPoint presentation? Is the question?
Absolutely.
Okay. We can figure out how to get
somebody. Go ahead.
All right. That sounds great. Well, I guess on that note, we just really appreciate your time and you're telling your story. So one more round of applause.
Thank you so much.
so
I
much.
appreciate having this opportunity. So thank you.